All right, everyone, we're going to be continuing our conversation today with Martin and Ayesha, and we were able to connect them with Julien and Kiersten from Rich and Regular, richandregular.com. And today we're going to talk about the habits of building wealth, the daily habits and the investing habits. And really, I think the questions that they ask are going to have mass appeal to people that are on this path and are trying to figure out, like, how do we sort the pieces? We know the big pieces, but how do we sort the daily pieces? What are the routines that you've built along the way? Welcome to the Ultimate Crowdsourced Personal Finance Show. This is ChooseFI.
Hi, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
I feel like I already know you because I've watched your videos a couple times.
That's how I feel.
So I guess we'll do a quick introduction for the purposes of the video. I'm Kiersten. I'm 36, live in Atlanta, married to Julien.
Great guy. I'm Julien, married to Kiersten, and I just turned the big 4-0.
Yes, and we've been pursuing FIRE for, I guess, officially, 5 years, maybe 6 years? We started right before we got married. And at that point, we had paid off a lot of our individual personal debt. And then once we got engaged and married, we paid off our mortgage. And so in total, we paid off like $200,000 in debt. Finished the debt freedom journey and, had the barely black net worth and then needed to decide what we were going to do next. And that's kind of when, Julien had already been like aware of the FIRE movement, but it's when he introduced it to me and I dragged my feet for a while. But once I got on board, we started doing this thing as a team and we blog at Rich and Regular now and just kind of talk about our journey.
So I'm Ayesha. I'm 40. We live in Chicago. I'm married to Martin.
And
Great guy.
I was waiting for a little bit more, but
okay.
I'm a great guy too. But we found ChooseFI maybe I think January of this year.
Wow.
And yeah. So I was listening to podcasts trying to learn about dividend investing and just stumbled on a podcast and really loved it and shared it with Ayesha. And after sharing it, we just kind of jumped both feet in. We been married for quite some time, and the way we manage money has always been pretty seamless. Yeah. So this seemed like the perfect fit for us. So we started listening to podcasts and joining Facebook groups and getting all reward cards. So we've been, like I said, both feet in, and we're just looking to continue so we can, get to where you are, debt free.
Yeah. So I feel like Martin isn't giving himself enough credit. Like, even though we just found the FIRE movement this January, I feel like he for sure is the natural saver. And I feel like even at the beginning of our relationship, he introduced me to some concepts that I hadn't even heard of, like paying your credit card off at the end of every month. I mean, luckily, when we met, I was still young, so I hadn't accumulated a lot of credit card debt, but that was literally like new age. Like, I had never even heard of the concept. I was always thinking like, oh, as long as my interest rate is low, or I'll do like transfer balances. Like, I was a transfer balance queen, like, get a new card, transfer the balance, pay the 3%. Yes, pay the 3% transfer fee, have that for like 0% for like a year or so. And I thought I was really like making moves. And so he put me on to just pay it off. Like at the end of every month, just pay it in full. And I felt like that was really early, a really good lesson. And then I feel like just throughout our relationship, we've just done a decent job of managing money. So it just helped us transition into this movement pretty seamlessly. So I give him the credit. If it wasn't for that little bit of knowledge, I don't know where I would be. Because I want to say at the time, I may have had $2,500 worth of credit card debt, which isn't a lot, but it took me over 6 months. Like it literally, like I stopped using it and it took me over 6 months to pay that off. So I can only imagine like if it wasn't for that little bit of information years ago where I would be. So
Can I ask the question? I get Martin kind of like introducing you to the concept, but even you, Martin, I understand that you found ChooseFI, but like what made you even look for dividend investing? Like, why were you even looking for other ways to like earn money outside of, let's say, a traditional job?
I think that we are really looking forward to our retirement. I think Ayesha, I would probably have to, credit her to that. Once she started working, she was on a path to retire at, we're not going to say the date, but around now. And with that, we've always been open to new information from any and every source. So literally, I think it was her uncle who is retired now. And he's always talking to us about investing. And we started investing with Vanguard like about 4 or 5 years ago, I would say. So we have our, traditional and our Roth accounts, and we had a couple brokerage accounts, but he introduced dividend investing. He said, you all really need to look at purchasing stocks that offer dividends. And I didn't really know much about it. So just looking to get to where he is, we were looking for that. And I think Ayesha at the time was probably looking at purchasing property.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So we are pretty much all over the place, just taking in all sorts of information and seeing what sticks. And this just really stuck.
Cool.
Yeah. And, to just piggyback off of what Martin said for a moment, I feel like, so my uncle, he retired at 55. He was a high school principal, and he said he wanted to be able to retire, or at the age in which he retired, he wanted to be able to run up the stairs 2 stairs at a time. And he did it, right? And he's been retired now for 25 years, him and my aunt, and they were both high school principals. And I feel like, they have had, in my opinion, the most fabulous, phenomenal retirement life of anybody who I know, like traveling all over the world. They live in a beautiful community. We go visit them often. And I feel like this is, and so 25 years ago, I was, I didn't even have a job. So I feel like he planted that seed then, like, this is what retirement looks like. This is what you want to aspire to. This is the life. So I initially started working and was like, yeah, let me start thinking and planning for my retirement, because I want it to look like that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to greet people at Walmart during my retirement. You know what I mean? Like, that's not how I see this happening. So.
Yeah, that's such a gift, because I think for a lot of people, and especially for Black people, we don't have a lot of great models for retirement. You're used to seeing people stop working when they're too old to work or too sick to work, but it's not a choice that they're making and actively planning for and assigning a target to that date. And Julien has a godmother or a really close auntie-esque friend of his mom's who was in the same boat, where she retired early from being an RN. I'm talking about Olive.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You didn't know who I was talking about.
I didn't. Because it was 2, and I was like, I don't know why you're telling that story, but okay.
She retired early, and it's just another model to show you that, 70 years old isn't necessarily super old, or even 60 years old. There's a lot of life after 40, after 35 that, kind of keeps you on track.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, you guys are 9 months into your FI journey officially. Mm-hmm. What do you think your biggest, I'll start with the good stuff. What's going well? What are you enjoying so far?
I feel like since COVID, our saving rate, or the amount in which we've been able to save, and just being more aware and conscious of all of the frivolous, non-essential ways in which we spent money. Because pre-COVID, I mean, I thought we were decent savers, but I'll own it. Like I would just, I don't know, like just spend on random stuff. It's like money's gone and there's literally like nothing to show for it. It's like, what did you spend this money on? And this is like every month. Like every month we pay off our credit card bill, but it's like super high. And it's like, what did we buy? And so with COVID, I was off work for like 4 months. And so, you know, like that's cutting our income in half. So we're like immediately like, okay, we need to really like figure this out. And I'm back working now. But I feel like we didn't miss it. Like we didn't miss whatever it was that we were spending the money on. And God only knows what that was. But I haven't missed it. And that was what was like so surprising. Like I don't feel like I'm depriving myself, because I have this thing with I don't like I don't know, like I'm not good with feeling like I can't do something or like restrictions. I like to feel free, you know. I like to feel like fluid and freedom. I don't like I don't like rigidity. And that was my issue with budgets. Like I didn't, because he had brought up or mentioned budgeting years ago, and I just hated it. I don't want to meticulously write down that I spent $3.65 on this, or, you know, $12.95 on that. Like I just don't want to do it. So I feel like COVID has showed me, one, we could save a really good amount of money. I can still feel like free and loose and fluid and zero constraints while doing it. So I feel like that has been like the biggest plus for me.
For me, I think is a couple of things. One is just the clarity with which we have in terms of what we need to accomplish, how much we need to save, what our goal is. I think before we were putting away money, we were saving for retirement. And it's like, when is that going to come? Or if that's going to come, at what point? So I think being able to put our goal into a number, and to be able to have something clear to target, I think is helpful. I think what else has gone well is being able to reevaluate like our subscriptions, our insurances, all of those policies, just really look at every line item in the budget and really evaluate whether or not it's most advantageous for us to utilize that company or a different company, and just being more mindful of every dollar. And like Ayesha said, it's something that I've thought about and mentioned, and at different times we have done it to different degrees, but right now being conscious of every dollar that we spend and doing it in the most optimized way, I feel like is the greatest benefit.
Martin, do you think you'll always be as excited about reviewing the budget?
And reviewing the budget is probably not exciting, but I am excited about counting the dollars. Looking at, not even necessarily the dollars that we have, but it's like a goal, a game to me.
Yeah.
So I'm excited by seeing that we save this amount of money, or, I can't tell you how many times we've, had to purchase an item. Actually, true story, this just happened, 4 days ago? 4 days ago, we decided that we were going to upgrade our den and purchase a television. And it's big news for us because literally we've had one television since we were married, essentially.
In the whole house?
One. So Ayesha, came up with this bright idea. We're gonna, revamp the den. Let's get a television. All right. So I go on OfferUp and I research, and that's what I love to do. So I research. I find 4 offers we literally purchased a TV that's better than the television that we have, of course, because we've had it for so long, but for $40.
Yeah.
Wow.
$40. A flat screen plasma HD TV. I'm over the moon.
What kind of TV do y'all have? Does it have a booty on the back? Like, is it
Almost. Like
it's a little booty.
Right, it's like a little
booty TV.
It does hang on the wall, but it's not as flat.
It is my first flat screen TV.
It's when they first came out, like that first generation of flat
that
screen.
heavy one, that heavy flat screen.
The real heavy one. Like it is not going anywhere. Do not touch it. It's fine.
Yeah.
So think about taking it.
Being able to count those dollars saved is exciting to me. So I can always see that I would, be excited by optimizing our dollars, I guess I would say.
Yeah, I it's funny because there's so many parallels here, and I'm sure she's laughing because we were in the same boat when she first moved into the home that I bought. I bought it before we met, and then she moved in after we got married, or actually just before we got married, and that was one of the first things that had to go because I had one of the big TVs with the booty. And,
big old booty.
But it was like right before flat screens really became a thing because it was a flat screen big booty TV.
Yeah.
Yes, I know those.
Yeah. And I had the separate sort of like boom box plug in with the speakers going on. And it was, I didn't care because, I didn't really watch that much television at the time. But she introduced me to a couple of other things then. And but no, it's funny because I remember when we only had, I think there was only one TV. No, there was another one upstairs, I think. But anyway, I remember those days where those little purchases that just like improve quality of life at home just made a big difference, I remember those days. So
and to be so attuned to your budget that they feel good, right? It's not like the purchases you made before where you're kind of like, I don't know what happened to my money. It's like, no, I know exactly where that $40 went. I look at it every day and I'm proud of that purchase.
Right.
Yeah.
And when that becomes the bar, like your entire life changes and you just start looking at things and it's like, is it going to bring me the joy of that television? Not saying that everything has to be like that, meaningful, but eventually, like if you build that habit, it starts to be that way.
Yeah.
Even now, we're several years into our journey. We went through the same thing recently with Julien's new car because he was driving. We had been driving around in, his old car for a while. It was a hoopty, like the seatbelt didn't work, the window wouldn't go up, the air conditioning was broke.
That was what broke me.
The air conditioning?
Yes. No AC.
It was no.
I was hot in the car. No radio, like just hot, unsafe, and right.
Yeah.
But we just went through the same thing of like, how do we need to feel in order to go purchase a car confidently? And he did very similar to you, got on the computers and did the research and went to a couple of dealerships and like, got the car that he wants. And now, at 40, it's the first time he's bought a car that he actually likes and enjoys. Every other time it's been like this trade-off of like trying to meet a goal and just getting something slightly better. And now it's like, no, this is actually what I wanted. And, it's very meaningful.
It brings you joy.
Yeah, it does. Like and it sounds terrible, but like even like today, like one of the best parts of my day is when I drop my son off at daycare. Because it's also one of the few times that I'm driving by myself and I can turn the music up and just
I know that.
You know what I mean? And I'm just enjoying these like little moments of to your point of just joy, right? Because I didn't always have that. But the reason why I asked the original question was because I used to be the same way. I'm not going to say better, but pretty much on the other end of the spectrum. And so when Kiersten and even before I met her, I used to have a spreadsheet of every single expense, like you name it. And I could tell you how much I spent on electricity on an annual basis 3 years before the price was going up. Like I could justify the purchase of getting a thermostat or a smart. I knew all of it, right? And I took pride in it. I had like quarterly, markers on my calendar to where I would go back into each, let's say, utility provider, and I'd be able to see if there was like a new phone package available, because that's how they get you. They don't tell you when there's something new. They just tell all the new customers, and they keep you into the old plan. So I would look on a quarterly basis, because it would only take like 10, 15 minutes. And then I would game plan on whether or not I was going to do that. But now I can't even tell you the last time I looked at our budget. It's so deeply ingrained in what we do, right?
In our habits.
Which is why I was saying, do you think you'll always be like that? I'm not saying that you will evolve, but I would say be open to the fact that you might evolve, because it becomes muscle memory after a while. You don't have to do it anymore. You know it. And you've got your own sort of system of record keeping. Obviously, that's not to discredit the value of counting every single penny. But I think after a while, you do reach a point where you just know it, you got it, you can feel it, right? Because the way that your house operates, you know how it feels when you get, or when there's less cash coming in, or even more cash going out, right? And so you can feel that sort of thing, and you just get more in tune with it. So I would just say kind of be open to that. And Ayesha, you might even enjoy that process a little bit as you evolve too. So, because she, even today she said something crazy. I don't even remember what it was. She mentioned something about how we could save a couple dollars, and I don't remember what. Clearly, I disregarded it, because I was shocked that she would even mention that this was an opportunity to save money, because that's not her, let's say, natural state either.
That's not my ministry.
No.
However, I do feel like the creativity involved in FIRE is fun sometimes, where you get to tell the story of the $40 TV, or the way that you figured out, how to save on granola bars or whatever it is.
It was balloons. Our son's birthday. Yes! Our son's birthday was in April. And these giant balloons, a giant rocket and a train and a plane.
The big like Mylar ones, like the small. I got big ones, like 3 feet ones.
Ridiculous balloons that you can only fit one in the back seat, and you got to put.
Yes, the 36-inch ones.
Yeah, right, the big ones.
Giant Texas balloons. And they've just been sitting there piling up. And so she ran an errand today, and I was like, I'm gonna pop these balloons. And so finally, I'm getting in there, just finally just murdering these balloons.
Yeah.
And she comes in the middle of the act talking about, I wouldn't have cut them that way. I would have cut them in a way in which we could reuse them when he turns 4. And I'm like, really? Really? Like, that's what.
There's a little seal in there that you can just kind of
split, and it's let the air out.
Yes, you can reuse those. That's a good balloon.
Yeah. So the number 3, we're gonna wait until he's 13.
Maybe
we only have to buy the number 1.
I still have a 3 in my age.
That's
I'm
ridiculous.
a spring chicken.
That's ridiculous.
So I have a question for you guys. We're really big on habits. So when you just said that just really spoke to me, because I do feel like when you can simplify your life and have a couple of really good habits, it can make things just run really, really smoothly. So if you had to say, what would you say would be your top 3 habits, or your top 3 life hacks, things that you just kind of do that's kind of auto now, that you feel help your household run smoothly?
3 each?
Oh, no,
total.
Total. I mean, you have 6. That's great. But I was thinking 3 total.
That's a great question.
That is a great question.
I feel like I can answer. So we're actually in the process of writing about this a little bit, not just for our book. I know for sure one of the habits that have helped her, I was going to mention meditation and journaling. I don't know if you would consider that a financial habit, though.
It is, but that wasn't one that I was thinking of.
Well, you can go ahead, and that'll give me some time to think of one.
Most of the habits that have saved me money are around the house. So doing laundry regularly. I know this is going to sound terrible, but doing laundry regularly prevents me from having a ton of extra clothes. Our whole family has with the exception of Julien. Julien kind of has a capsule wardrobe. Julien has more of a uniform, but me and our son, Bo, adopted a capsule wardrobe, which is basically like limited pieces of clothes that all match each other. And so at most we have, 20 to 30 pieces of clothes, which requires that you do laundry and care for them differently so that you don't go out and buy something. And when you do buy something, you're kind of like being creative so that it goes into the other wardrobe. So doing laundry pretty regularly, running the dishwasher and keeping the sink clear of dishes is another habit. It's a small one, but it prevents us from spending a ton of money on like kitchen accessories and dishes. Like we have just enough of everything. And when we run out, it means it's time to wash the thing that you already have.
Can I interrupt for a second? Because that's a really important one. And I didn't even know you felt that way about it, but because it can be a little annoying sometimes.
It is annoying.
But there's so much benefit in having like just the right amount of the things that you need, right? And the perfect example to me is like coffee cups. Because like my mom lives by herself. I'm picking on my mom, but she probably has 30 coffee cups, right? She's got 2 feet, but she probably has 50 pairs of shoes. And so she's got a pile over here, and then there's some in the box for the times that she's going to go out, even though she doesn't go anywhere. And like, and on and on and on. And so like, I think culturally, so many of us don't really pay attention to the stress that like quantity and clutter plays in your life. And we get so caught up in the marketing of just convenience and buying things in packages or bundles because they're available. And I found that more often than not, you just end up with a bundle of crap that you don't even really use. And so don't buy you could argue there aren't that many bundles that are really relevant, with the exception of like insurance or something like that. But everything else, like you really don't really need the bundle. You don't need all the things. You just need 2 or 3 of the things. But we've bought into the buffet of everything. And so it's like, it just adds clutter to your life, to your inbox, to, the messages that come into your head. And I think that's what adds to decision anxiety and analysis paralysis, because you're thinking about everything because you've opened yourself up to every possibility. And I think when you boil down to like your life and your financial strategy or whatever it is that you're doing to a handful of things that you just are going to nail every single time, you can think of this as a sports reference or a business reference. No one's great at everything. But there are these 3 to 5 things, to your point, and we have mastered those things. And we're just going to kind of not necessarily ignore everything else, but we're really going to make sure that we nail those 3 things. And to her point, it made me think about it. And I'm glad you asked, because I learned something about my wife just now.
I do not like doing the dishes all the dang time, but it is helpful to think of it in that way. What else?
I'll give one since I cut you off. I have never made an investment in myself that has not paid off handsomely, ever. And so whether it's me deciding to buy kettlebells when the COVID hit and I was unable to go to the gym, or take a course or buy a book. Even if I didn't, like I bought a book yesterday because we're writing a book and I knew about the book and I know of it, but I'd never read it. And I still haven't read it. And as I'm looking at it, I'm probably never going to read it. But I saw exactly what I needed to see in that book to unblock what I needed in order for us to write our own. Gosh.
I'm going to return it. That's another habit. Keep your receipt and return stuff. So like if it sits for 3 to 7 days, I'm going to take it back because I clearly did not want it. I once bought this pineapple basket. It was like bright gold. It looked different online, but like it sat there for like a month and I finally decided to take it back because, it was time. I purge the house regularly. So everything from clothes to toys to just things we don't use gets donated quarterly. What else?
I want to go back to investing in yourself.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Because I think frugality or the spirit of frugality oftentimes can get in the way of people wanting to what Stephen Covey calls sharpen the saw, or just sort of learn new skills. And oftentimes a lot of those new skills can learn or can improve your ability to earn income or more income, or make yourself more marketable, or introduce you to investment opportunities further down the line that you otherwise would not have been privy to. And so I am the minimalist of the two. But when I do make these sort of big purchases, I do think of them as investments in a way, because I'm investing in a world of things that I'm probably curious of. And that it introduces me to concepts or leads me down another path, and so on and so on. So I strongly recommend, I think it's one thing to be frugal about not wanting to buy the nicest TV that's available. But I do think that when there are learning opportunities and you're really passionate about it, I think oftentimes it's very much worth it to buy or invest to the highest degree, so that you don't limit your learning in the process.
All right.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that was 5 things.
Yeah.
I don't know what 5.
Yeah, no, that was amazing. No, I'm loving this list. Like, and I'm totally vibing with it. I want to say, I think we did like a big purge of the house in November. I came across this whole what was it? Marie Kondo. Yes, and I just went crazy. And I'm all about the capsule wardrobe mix and match. I told him years ago, I'm like, each kid is going to have like 12 outfits. That's it. And so make it work. Like, that's all you're getting, because prior to that, we would have mounds of laundry. And it's like, why? It's 4 of us. It's so overwhelming. It's like just this idea of more, just need more. I'm like, no, let's minimize, like just a few things. So, so I'm all like, we literally did that in November, and she was right. Like, if you do it the right way, you can pretty much like maintain it with just like a few little things that you need to like get rid of, like occasionally, but not the overall, not the overall get rid of everything, organize and all of that. So
it reminds me of a book that I read and we talked about a couple of years ago. I think it's entitled The Paradox of Choice. And just how paralyzing it is when you have so many options. And I think that just speaks to what you were saying earlier, Julien, about having the things that you need, essentially. It just cuts down on so much mental energy. So, no, I really agree with that. And I think that's something that we try to embody also. So it's good to hear that you guys are using that also.
For sure. How are you guys coping with, I guess, community? I mean, I understand ChooseFI is obviously a great community online, but guys, have you guys gone to any like local meetups? And if so, how have those been? But if not, do you have a community of people that have shared values? Because if it's anything like our experience, and again, we've been doing this for a while. In fact, we were just talking, we're editing an episode of our video series where we were at this part of the conversation that we just finished talking about it. This, like, just how lonely it can feel sometimes, because you've got these ideas and these beliefs, and you've been, thinking about them and acting on them, and then you bring it to your boy, and he's like, nah, like, you sound like a weirdo, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you talking crazy right now. I'm about to go, but like, have you guys experienced that? Like, sort of like, talk to me about like the role that community has played, if any, in your journey so far.
It's so ironic that you bring that question up. That's actually a question that we have for you all.
Oh, okay.
But
I can flip it if you want.
That's what we can answer.
I think that we have a pretty good community. We mentioned Ayesha's uncle.
Yep.
My brother is really big into investing. He always has been, actually an investment company of his own. So I've always been in close contact with him. And I have a pretty close group of friends, and we always share information. We actually, when I discovered discovered ChooseFI, we were meeting up regularly. Actually, before COVID hit, every month we would have a potluck, and it's about maybe six or seven families, couples with kids, all kind of progressive, trying to do the right thing and excel. So we always share ideas. We actually created a group for the purposes of becoming financially free, which was our group name. So we, put information about investing. There's a number of guys that I know that are involved in real estate. So we really kind of keep each other abreast and keep each other kind of focused on the goal of being financially free. In addition to that, we have a couple of couples in the area who invest, but the concept of FI, I would say not that many couples are familiar or as passionate about it as we are.
Okay, so clearly we have I don't feel like we have a community of people who are like-minded when it comes to that. Like, everything that he just said is absolutely true, but I still think it's a little bit different. Like, I think you're right. He has a good group of friends, and they discuss investing and finances and being financially free. But I think that they're more so on the more traditional, I'm retiring at 62, 65 path. So I guess what I would want would be a community of people who are looking to retire at 42, 45, like, within the next 5 years or so. And I would want more, I don't know, I guess like more support regarding, it could be anything. It could be, well, we own this, but instead of 5 families purchasing it, one person can purchase it and we all share it, or we all purchase it collectively and we all share it. And I don't feel like it's that type of thing. Like, I think that they're a little bit more financially aware, but I don't think it's to the same extent. And it's definitely, in my opinion, like, I don't feel that they're on the fire path. I think it's more so like, oh, I'm trying to be more financially aware.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
The fire part, but not the R.
Right. Right. But I don't even know if it's the financially independent. Like, I don't know. But and these are like his friends and their wives, and I'm cool with them, but it's not quite like so much our friends. So so that's why it was my question to you guys, as far as like, what type of community do you have? Because when I bring it up to my girlfriends, it's almost like, oh yeah, that's really cool that's something you guys are doing. Like, oh my God, that's kind of cool. But, oh, well, but yeah, for you. And it's like, oh, well, next year I'm turning 40. I'm buying me, the big body bands. And it's just like, oh, okay. I'll stick with my Ultima for 7 more years. Like, okay.
Sounds like mine.
Yeah. So for me, it's hard because my friends aren't on that. Like, they're not at a place where that they view finances the same way. So it's those big purchases, or, let's do this, let's go out for dinner, let's meet for lunch, let's, on a regular basis. So it's a little bit more of a pull for me to do these things that aren't necessarily the best financial decision.
Yeah. So we've got a lot of experience in dealing with that. And we've often said, especially as Black people, the pursuit of financial independence is, or even just the pursuit of just building wealth, is like a really lonely experience. The richer you get, the whiter your world becomes. And that's not to politicize the conversation. It's just a reality. And it can be a really polarizing thing to deal with. But what I've found is, what we found rather, is that oftentimes like telling doesn't work, right? Like you really just have to show people. And so just like your friend says, oh, that's cool, next year I'm going to buy this big body Benz. I'm not saying you need to counter that, but I would say stay the course. And then next year or whenever it is, you sort of reveal your own exercising of the freedoms that you enjoy. And it could be something like, oh, wow, well, Martin and I don't really have that kind of situation. We have this. Or, we're
taking a month off.
We're going to take a much longer vacation than the typical, 5 or 7 day, or like just crazy stuff. And you say crazy until it's a reality and it's less crazy. It's like, we're going to take one vacation and then roll in another vacation afterwards, right? That's something that you hear that people do, but when it becomes a reality for you, it really, really changes people. Like when we took 2 weeks, our honeymoon, we spent 2 weeks, changed our life in South Africa in 2015. We'd never been away from work that long, but just that idea, most people it's like 3-4 days, 5, 7. We were like, we just don't want another week after that. And even that year, and this was before we'd even like achieve any degree of financial independence. This is just like being on the path because of the decisions that we made and committed to living small and committed to being frugal. When we did decide to spend, we were able to do it in a way that really, really mattered to us. And so we were able to build a life's worth of memories over a really short period of time. And so that's our big body Benz, right?
Yeah.
And that's been really, really cool. But I'll say the other way to look at it might be, as I'm thinking about other people in my circle, is to not necessarily show them, but to show their children, right? And so I've got family members with kids and they both work really, really hard, but they've committed to the traditional path of working, despite, and if we're just being honest, despite a lot of signs that are showing that they probably need to tweak this approach, because there's some things that just aren't working there. But they don't have the freedoms that Kiersten and I have, right? And so we are able to do things like, well, say, don't worry about it, we'll take the girls, or don't worry about it, we'll do these things. So when they need these pockets of relief, or if they need to just like, sort of delegate responsibility to someone in their village to help, we're able to sort of step in as auntie and uncle and help sort of pick up the slack. And I think those are things that mean a lot more than being able to show someone some bling or a nice car. It's like, we're going to take a vacation as a family, and don't worry about it. If we do it, we got you, because this is sort of what we're going to be able to do. And so I would say, we've experienced a lot in terms of community. We've met a lot of people all over the world, really, in the process. And I guess that'll be the last thing that I'll say. If you stick with it, you'll probably learn that you haven't met your best friends yet. You know what I mean? The people who are really, really closely aligned with your values and can join you while you want to backpack through Europe or do whatever thing that your current circle thinks is weird. You know what I mean? Like, you don't necessarily have to divorce yourself from that social circle.
And I would recommend that you don't.
Yeah, it's not necessary. You know what I mean? But in fact, what concerns me now is being able to keep up with all the amazing people that we've been able to meet just over like the last couple of years. Because, I get nervous sometimes when we go into places and people recognize us and we may have shared a really great moment with them at a conference or something like that. Because like we are able to just be really, really present because we don't have the pressure of like work. We're like in a much more control over our income and our lives now because of the things because of the way that we've managed our money over the last 5 years. And so, it can be a pain in the butt, but stay open-minded. You'll meet more people and it'll sort of make up for the things that you're not able to express or share with the people that are in your circle now.
So I I did have another question for you guys, and I've seen your talks on the Money on the Table talks.
Oh yeah.
And I was curious as to how often you guys talk money, or how often do you revisit your goals? I know, Julien, you mentioned kind of setting it on auto and just kind of rolling with those things that you are, pretty much good at. How often do you kind of jump back and kind of revisit, or take stock of where you are or where you need to be in terms of money?
It's probably quarterly now.
Well, it depends on how you're looking at it. I mean, we're anomalies in the sense that we are, like we have like relationships with media and that sort of thing. And so we're anomalies in the sense that, I guess what I'm saying is like, honestly, I don't even check our portfolio. I've probably checked our portfolio 3 times this year. Because it's not money that I'm going to touch or adjust at all, right? Like I know the purpose that it's serving. It's there to compound handsomely for the next 10 to 20 years. So when I think about where my attention would be best served, it's more so around building our business, maintaining a healthy lifestyle so that I can be, here for my wife and my kids, my kid. Sorry.
It's like, well, you got another
one. But yeah, so we don't check our, maybe she does. I don't
check our portfolio, but even on like a more pragmatic basis in terms of our checking and like our living expenses and making sure that we can pay off the credit cards and that things are hitting, we probably formally look at it monthly, like right around the first of the month, as the big checks like mortgage, daycare, credit card all come out like around the same week. And then quarterly, and we used to do this more frequently when we were traditionally employed, but quarterly we're deciding what we're doing with our income from an investment perspective. So whether we're going to put it in our brokerage account or our solo 401k, or put it in an HSA, or put it somewhere else, a 529, we make those decisions quarterly with bigger amounts of money, versus what we used to do was as soon as the money came in, it would be right back out. We already had a job assigned to that dollar. That doesn't work as well when you have inconsistent income like we do now as entrepreneurs. And so now it's like letting it pile up a little bit and then making a big decision about where it all goes.
Yeah. So but in general, we talk about money constantly.
Every day.
That's what I meant by us being an anomaly.
Every day.
Is because it's a part of our business. It's a part of our personal life. It's a part of the brand that we're building. It's a part of future businesses that we're building. So we literally talk about money every single day. There's not a day that goes by that we're not talking about it in some respect.
Not necessarily our money, but like the ecosystem of money. Yes. One of the things we like to do to try and practice empathy and try to understand issues from like a bunch of different angles is play like, why would they do that? So if you see a corporation on TV, or your friend tells you about a Benz, or, a couple, about a really big old house in a nice side of town, we just like to play like, why would they do that? And we think of all the reasons why they would do that. Maybe they needed more space. Maybe the dog did need a bigger yard. Maybe they're planning on buying a third car and they needed to park it somewhere. Like it just helps kind of think through all the things. And that sounds so corny, but it's a really fun game. Like it just helps us think through different scenarios that people come into with money. And again, the goal, going back to your friend circle, is to not be judgmental of the choices they're making now, to try and understand what thought process they're using. And a lot of times it'll lead you to have compassion for them, to say like, wow, I feel for you that you would make that decision because you assume that it's going to make you happy or fulfilled, or maybe hell, you just like cars. Like that's also a really good reason to buy something because you just like it. Yeah. It just helps you to have compassion and be non-judgmental, and then leave the light on for them and hold space, as they say in like the enlightened community, hold space for them when they may come back later and see that you're living a life that they now want, that you can explain some of the choices and trade-offs that you've made.
Yeah, I was gonna say, do what your grandma told you not to do, and like leave the gate open. Seriously,
leave the porch light on.
leave the front gate open, because
they will be back.
Yeah, I think one of the things that come with being, for lack of a better word, enlightened, right, about the way that money works and how it impacts your life, is you can see a crash in other people's lives before it happens.
Way before it happens.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very easy to feel like, oh man, or to even be justified in your discomfort and rage sometimes, because you know that you're going to have to be the one that steps in to help them because they're not doing these things that they know they should be doing. And you told them and you shared them the podcast and the book, and it didn't matter, right? Still leave the gate open. Don't be judgmental. They're human beings. Everyone is not ready to receive these messages in that moment. And what I've learned is that you just may not be the person to, especially as a married couple, right? There are some things that, she's told me, but it goes in one ear and out the other. But if somebody else tells me and it's like, man, you made a really good point, right? And she'd be like, what?
I told you that 3 months ago.
Right? Yeah. And it happens the other way around more often than not. But you understand that, what, she may not be the right messenger for that message. And so that may be the case, right? Especially if you're talking about people that you're really, really close with, because I'll give you another example. Like, let's say you have a financially insecure parent, right? It's hard for you to give that person who wiped your butt as a child and watched you cry about stupid stuff, advice on what they should do with their money. You know what I mean? They are not accepting any advice from you.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
They spent all their money on you.
Right. So if
I'd have more money if you weren't here.
Correct. But their pastor or a coworker or someone on television might be able to motivate them, even if they're saying the exact same message. Yeah. And so, that's something that I'd be mindful of for sure.
Yeah. I have a question for you guys. Could you talk more on your journey from transitioning from like more traditional employment to like owning your own business, starting that? Like, how did that happen? Or where did you get I don't even know what the word would be, but not necessarily the motivation, but like maybe the idea and just like those early steps. So it's like, taking yourself 5 years ago, whenever, I'm not sure exactly when you started Rich and Regular, and how it just kind of evolved.
Yeah.
I'm going to start and then I'll let you finish. But I'll give you a very, very, very specific example. For me, it was around 2013, and I was working in the marketing department of a company that I, at the time, loved. I was in a position that I fought really, really hard to get into, but I was underpaid. And I knew that I would be, and I thought I could deal with it, but I just couldn't accept it after a while because like the responsibility just kept piling up. They just kept saying, I need you to do more and more. Mm-hmm. And this is why there's no one better to do it. And I'm like, all right, I get it. I'm getting a lot of responsibility and a lot of accolade, but I'm not seeing an increase in my paycheck. And I remember asking for a $10,000 raise, something that I thought that I didn't even think that I needed to make a case for it. You know what I mean? You guys made the case for it by giving me all these additional responsibilities in a very short period of time. And the games that I was just playing games with me was like, yep, just do this thing. And then I do that thing. And before I knew it, another year would go on. And I remembered signing off on a check to a contractor, several contractors, some for like $250,000, some for $80,000. But I specifically remember us doing a marketing campaign with an influencer, and we paid him to go to one of our hotels, eat at one of our restaurants, take pictures with his kids for like $10,000. We paid him $10,000 to do this. And I was like, nah, ain't no way. It was just something about that particular check that was like, nope, there's 300.
Exactly what I asked for.
Yeah, that might have been it. I was like, the fact that I'm signing off on this, right? Like, we as a company can't find the $10,000 to give to me, the person that we are making responsible for all this stuff. But I am paying someone $10,000 to go take a vacation in exchange for a picture that they're going to post on Instagram. And that was enough for me to not say, screw this, I'm going to be an influencer. But it was enough for me to say, there are other ways to earn an income. And so that's what led me to, at that point, I was already into real estate. I think we already had a rental property at that point. And we had already paid off the second property, which we knew would become the second rental. And so I had all the confidence that I needed at that point. I knew that I could earn income outside of work and that I'd already replaced part of my check on my own. I didn't have to work hard to receive a rental check. I had already worked for it. It was a finite body of work that could essentially pay me in perpetuity. And I was like, I like that feeling more. You know what I mean? The idea that I worked for something, I created a little sort of cash machine and it spits out income, as opposed to me being in this constant state of working for $1, because I'm going to get tired eventually. You know what I mean? And so that was the big thing for me, starting the blog, learning how to monetize it, which sort of led me into the world of digital entrepreneurship, and all of the other ways that you can earn income. And then after I left, it became my mission for that business to earn enough income for Kiersten to feel comfortable leaving her job. And this is where I'll let you tell the rest about when you felt comfortable to leave.
Our business was not earning enough to replace my income when I decided to leave. But very similar to Julien, I had gone through a path where I was now immersed and emerged in this world of people who were making money outside of traditional jobs and making it work. So once you get into FIRE, yes, there's the traditional FI and RE where, you know, they stop working and they live off of their portfolio withdrawals forever and ever and ever. But there's also this emerging group of people that are FI enough to not have to do required work, but find a way to not have to draw down either. They can freelance, they can buy parking lots that mobile homes sit on. They can own a box company, literally a company that makes boxes. They can geo arbitrage. There's like this world of people that had figured out a way
Airbnb
to kind of hack the year,
develop apps, right? Yeah. Freelancing, like they're doing things that they enjoy in doing anyway.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
And so once I understood that concept, my brain switched from when do I leave when Rich and Regular is consistently producing, you know, over 6 figures a year, to can we build a 1-year runway and trust that in that 1 year, we'll start to build the next year's runway and we'll never run out of money that way. And so that's what we did with that first rental property. We put some in the market, but started our, you know, runway of a year's expenses. And we obviously had an emergency fund. Like, I'm not saying we did this completely risk-free, you know, to the wind, whatever. But we had an emergency fund. We had everything fully funded. But then we started building like this cash runway. And once I felt like we could build it and that we would have kind of accounts receivables coming in, or at least ways to make money, it was like, all right, let's just try it. Like, worst case scenario, in a year, one of us goes and looks for a job. Or, you know, we started thinking through our worst case scenario, and we had reached the point in FI where like the worst case scenario was not a worst case anything. It was like, okay, so we go down to 1 car. And it's like, that's still a pretty good scenario. Like, so yeah, we just kind of played through and started to take more credit for the progress that we had made and let go of this arbitrary, like, number thing that the FI community, you know, for very good reasons has created. But like, that number is arbitrary. If you hit the number on Tuesday and the market dips 30% and you no longer have the number on Wednesday, are you any less FI?
Right.
Like, those are the kinds of questions that we had to ask ourselves and then figure out, like, all right, well, if you were counting on drawing down, then what would you do for money? And that's when we were able to get creative to figure out, what options we actually had.
Yeah, we think about it like a gas tank. And it's like, we just took a vacation. We went from Atlanta, where we live, to Greenville, South Carolina. And we can get from here to Greenville, South Carolina on half a tank. Now, if you only have a quarter tank, do you not leave the house? Right? No.
You assume you can get some
You
gas
can still get on the road, right? And get gas somewhere between E and a quarter, right? Now, obviously, you don't do that everywhere. I'm sure if you're in the middle of Wyoming and you're, in a national park, there's not going to be a gas station. But, when you know your skill sets and you've got a pretty good idea of the landscape that you play in, it's pretty clear that you've figured out other ways to earn income along the way. I'm not advising everybody do that.
No.
But I do think that the fundamentals of what we're doing are still pretty solid. Like, we don't have to put another dollar into our retirement accounts to know that it's going to do what it does, right? Like, I don't have to touch that. It's going to grow. That's just how the markets work. We had plenty of cash, plenty of cash. We literally sold our last property. It was a debt-free rental. Days before the pandemic, was officially sort of announced. And so I just know that plenty of entrepreneurs have done really, really well with considerably less than we have. And so if we didn't do well, it's like, all right, well, we learned a lot of ways not to do something. But we were able to secure a book deal. We've got a number of things that are in the process. Do I know exactly how we're going to earn every single dollar between now and, let's say, that the age in which I'm legally allowed to withdraw from no. But no business owner does. You know what I mean? And none of us can predict the
your
future.
employer doesn't either.
Correct. Correct. So plenty of cash, plenty of confidence in our ability to earn income. And even if that didn't work, confidence in our abilities to find income in other ways. And we learn a lot from the community, right? The other people who figured out all these other things or other ways to earn income. And the last thing I'll say is I'll use a separate analogy is around like wine, because I'm a wine nerd. But like, if you're not a wine nerd and I gave you a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon, you would just say, oh, it's red wine. And if I then gave you a glass of like Merlot, you probably wouldn't really know the difference. Most people don't go through the process of like looking at and tasting a Cabernet and a Merlot and a Pinot Noir. When you do, you can actually see that they actually look very different, in addition to tasting very different. And I think it's very similar with like income, that most people only earned income one way, through a job.
Yeah.
They don't really have anything else to compare it to be able to say, I enjoy the quality of this income more so than the other, because there is no other. They've only ever received it from a job. I've received income from a job. I've received income from rental property. I've received income from multiple sources online. I've written articles. We're writing a book. So now I can say, I actually really enjoy this. And this is what I want to do for the next 20 years, right? Or even the next 5 years. And then when that's done, I feel like that's going to introduce me.
There'll be a new income stream.
There'll be a new income stream.
That's what emerging economies do, is they create new income streams. And it's like, oh, actually, I could be a rapper and create streaming income.
You could not be a rapper.
I could be a rapper.
But I understand the point you're trying to make. But my goal was to say, or my point rather, is that like, that's when we knew, is because we'd grown accustomed to creating sources of income in a multitude of ways. And
work didn't make sense anymore. 80 hours for this little bitty squeeze of my annual salary
didn't
just give me the thing up front, or we got to figure out another model, because breaking it up into 2-week increments didn't make sense for the amount of time and the trade-offs of that time with a young child at home that I was making. And I was also on the road like 40% of the time. And so it was about like, when you add up all of that in exchange for the check, It's like,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Like when people ask why we sold our rentals, and I tell them, I was like, if you've ever earned $1 online and you compare the quality of earning $1 online and how quick that is, how seamless that is, it's far less complicated than earning income through real estate. You know what I mean? It just is. It's a completely different, and that's not to discredit real estate.
Right.
But for me, I enjoyed that, and I felt like that was much more lucrative. It's a lot easier to, let's say, drive traffic to a website than it is to try to raise rent on a property, because there's only so high you can raise that rent before that person says, I don't want to do this anymore, and they leave. And then you lose income because there's a gap between filling one tenant and another. So all that to say, having become familiar with enough ways to earn income, and having done it several times really well, we were able to say, you know what, I'm comfortable walking away from this, even though on paper it's very lucrative. I believe that we can increase these other sources by taking all the energy that we've put into our jobs and pouring it into things that we own and have greater control and no income cap on.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. I do have another question. You were saying, you had asked us if we have connected with the FI group here. We haven't. Is that something that you guys have done a lot of? I'm guessing you've done a lot of the meetups. Well, part of it is because as soon as we found out about ChooseFI, then it was like COVID.
There was actually a meetup that was scheduled in the end of March. I think the second week of March that we were going to go to,
but it was
canceled.
Yeah. We've hosted meetups in Atlanta. We've attended meetups in Atlanta, and then we've even attended stuff outside of Atlanta. And it's interesting that regionally, FI has a different flavor. Like the things that people complain about on the West Coast are very different than the things I say complain about, like that's all we do. But like, it's nice to vent among, like-minded people. But the things that worry people in the West in terms of like, how's climate change going to affect my portfolio? And should I sell my real estate that's on a fault line, but is growing in value for the last decade, versus the things in the South, which is more like healthcare and job opportunities and cost of living concerns. Like, it's just very different. So I certainly encourage you to meet people in person. Sometimes the format of meetups can be aggressive for me. Sometimes they're very structured and like people will do breakouts and they have very specific problems that they're trying to solve. And then other ones are more casual and more like discussion led or more network led, where it's like there is no agenda, just introduce yourself to somebody and talk about money or talk about, anything else, and know that you're talking to someone who's like-minded. So I encourage you to meet people in person. It was the thing that kind of pushed me over the edge in terms of like really adopting the lifestyle, is meeting people in person and getting to know them beyond just like the persona online, which is typically there to serve a lot of different purposes to make sense to write a blog digitally. When you meet them online, when you meet them in person, it allows for more nuance and you can ask different questions and you can get to know them and you start to understand their tone more.
And they share insights with you, right? Like going back to what I was saying, you don't realize all these different ways that people can earn income, or just how much money you can earn online until you really start to engage with communities of people who are doing that. You know what I mean?
Or how much of the FI community isn't online. So the other thing from the meetup is like, there's this perception that everybody who perceives FI as a blogger. And then it's like, you go to this meetup and there's 80 people there and only 2 of them have a website. The other 78 are doing incredible things in life that are like, you're a what? You're a geologist. You're a like, it's just something really, really interesting. And again, I always encourage people who say like, do you have to have a blog to be FI? It's like, no, you definitely don't. And you should go meet the people that don't, because they're far more interesting than we are.
Yeah. So definitely go to some meetups. And if you don't like it, schedule your own.
Yeah,
You're entitled to not,
So
not like it.
Yeah, I didn't like a couple of them, and I was like, I want one where there's like wine and music. And then we had our own.
Yeah, our meetups are very sort of like, it's all about, like, our thing is, I guess my one criticism of the FIRE community is that we do a great job of like being an echo chamber and talking to the people who are already interested in this stuff. We don't do as good as a job of like talking to the people outside of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, not everyone wakes up wanting to obsess about, financial independence and spreadsheets and that sort of thing. And even the people that do that don't always just want to talk about that. And so we wanted to be a lighthouse to the people. Like, it's almost kind of like a trick. Like, that's arguably what Money on the Table is about.
Switch.
It's like, let me allure you into this idea of like food because everyone likes that. And then, gotcha. We're gonna talk about money.
About index funds.
You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with our meetup. Just like, oh yeah, it's gonna have so much fun, but I'm gonna force you to have this conversation.
Yeah, I want you to bring the friend that has the Benz. Like, let them drive you in their new Benz. And I don't want them to feel out of place because they're not already in this lifestyle. Like, I want everybody to just kind of vibe and get treated like a buffet.
Yeah.
You like something you heard, take it with you. If you don't, at least you had good wine and music.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you were asking, I know this is Martin's work day, so we have to, we won't be able to stay long, but I feel like I have tons of questions. Like, I'm always like, just curious of everyone's story and how things came to be. So I was wondering, like, early on, like, what were some of your biggest challenges, like at the very beginning of your journey? Did you have any anything that in particular?
I was judgmental about my beliefs on spending. I grew up very poor. I grew up in 1980s Brooklyn, New York. Violence. The process of sort of pursuing and evaluating my career at a certain point and thinking about financial independence led me to have some really inflexible beliefs about money. And so when I met Kiersten, she reeked of a Cosby Kid to me. Rudy. Yeah. She was Vanessa.
I wouldn't say I was Vanessa.
You literally look kind of Tempest right now.
It's like Dee meets Rudy.
Spoiled, right? In my eyes, I just thought she was spoiled. Yeah, I mean, I think that I said hurtful things because I found so much virtue in saving, and in not spending, and in optimizing, use the term optimizing. I found so much virtue in that, down to the crumbs in a cereal box. And, I think that was a big obstacle because, when you lead with like shame or things that make someone feel bad for their own upbringing, which they have very little control over, that can be a barrier to intimacy and closeness, or even just influence, right? You want to convince someone, hey, you should probably do this. You should probably not lead with shame. So that was something that I learned, and something that we're writing about in our book, because I think there's a lot of virtue signaling. Everyone's sort of racing to do things at the lowest cost possible, as if your ability to do that makes you a better person. And what we found is, and I feel we're almost kind of like giving away, I guess, a point of view in our book a little bit. But what did we say? Like, savers are spending too, right? This idea of savers versus spenders almost sets us up for conflict. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You're a natural saver, you're a natural spender. And it's like, actually, everyone's spending. Savers are spending for something that they want to experience in the future. Spenders are spending for something that they want to experience today.
Yeah.
And quite honestly, if your relationship is at a point of conflict, one of the best things you can do is spend today. You know what I mean?
It's tomorrow. You may not have tomorrow.
Buy that TV so that you can watch what you want to watch down here, and I can watch what I want to watch up there. Or go out on a date, or get a babysitter. And you know what I mean? Like, spending today can actually be really, really rewarding and be one of the best investments you ever make, if you want to call it an investment. Yeah. Plenty of wealthy people have said one of the best decisions you can ever make is marrying the right person. And so one of the best investments you can make is actually spending on your marriage. Spend on your marriage. You know what I mean? So go out, enjoy those things, get your hair done, you know, whatever it is that makes you guys feel good or better or keep you motivated throughout that journey. Even if you're in that debt-free journey, it's really important to celebrate those milestones. Mm-hmm. Because if not, you're going to forget why you're doing this. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you need a reminder of the good feeling. And sometimes that good feeling comes with spending money. Kiersten has had to teach me how to spend money, because I've got so arguably good or bad, depending on how you look at it, at not spending. And it's like, you probably need to throw those shorts away. Like, those shorts, they stink. It's like, I didn't work out. I didn't even work out yet. But the funk is so deeply ingrained in the fabric of George Clinton is in the drawers. Just
Trying to let these go.
You got to go ahead and burn those.
We have money. You will not set us back.
Yeah.
You go get a new pair.
Yes, when I went out to buy the new car, we went to the farmer's market, and this was like it was a 30, 40-minute drive. And we don't normally drive that far because the grocery store we go to is 10 minutes away. But that 30 minutes without air conditioning was different. I could deal with it.
It's a little different when it's
30 minutes with the kid in the back and the windows down.
Sweating.
Staying still.
I was sitting there telling myself, you know what? If we were in Jamaica, it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's dry.
You wouldn't complain about it then. It was like, and I wouldn't be looking at a highway either.
Yeah,
I'd be looking at water. So certainly shame, and I learned a lot about my own upbringing in the process of exploring my financial history and how that impacts our relationship. So
I think I was closed-minded, which then led to judgmental. But like, I was very closed-minded about this thing that was so different than what I had thought my life was going to be like. I thought I was going to be this corporate boss. I just knew I was going to keep climbing this ladder and making six figures consistently every single year. Like, I had a very clear vision for myself in my head and the type of people that I would hang around. And so when I started to meet this community, and not only did people in the community look very different than what I had imagined my friends looking like, they acted differently, and it required me to see a different version of myself. And I struggled with that for a long time. Like, I would talk, how in the personal finance community, they're always like, think of your future self, and like, that's what you're waiting for. And I really thought I knew her. Like, the future self I was imagining was preventing me from doing the very things that they were asking me to do. So opening up to a world where, like, I don't know my future self. I don't know who she is. I don't know what she likes. And focusing on the things that I do know, there are certain things about me that are never going to change. My faith, my belief in family, my belief in like how I show up as a friend, those things, pretty sure those aren't going to change. But there were other things that was just like, I needed to be open to letting go of, like what my hair looked like, what my home looked like, what I spent my days doing. And that actually made the process more fun for me to actually imagine a world where it's like, I'm still a great friend, great daughter, great wife, still believe in the good in the world, but like, I'm not going to work every day, or I'm not carrying a briefcase, or I'm not dressing a certain way.
Right.
And it's like, that was kind of fun, but I resisted it for a really long time.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. This is like this was a question that we had and I totally forgot about it. And this is like a complete shift of gears. It was, if you had a windfall of money what would you do? Like, would you invest it in like index funds? Would you do like an individual company, like put it in like maybe a few different companies, like buy stock in a few different companies? Like, how would you buy a investment property? Would you
invest in yourself?
Oh wait, look, I'm sorry, excluding excluding investing in your business. That's not one of the options. It would be those other things, but not invest in the business.
We ask ourselves this question probably once a month. Honestly. And I think we wrote about it, but our position has changed on this. I think for us, it's a matter of saying, listen, until we get to a certain amount, that the answer is really simple. It's invest in low-cost index funds. It's a really simple thing. I might carve out a little bit to buy. I think we said like the house could use maybe $10,000 to $20,000 worth of improvements.
Yeah.
But the other 980, assuming you're talking about $1 million, 990, you know, like.
Well, if it's $1 million, you got to carve out my Tesla, because.
Fine. Honestly, if it's $1 million, right? That's the only way that would make sense to me. But yeah, honestly, and I say that with confidence because we're just at we're at the last phase of our journey, right? And when you start to see, you just grow much more. It's very similar to like running a business where you get really comfortable cutting big checks and receiving big checks. When you get to a certain point in your journey, you get much more comfortable with bigger swings, whether it's coming in or out. And so, I mean, and it's funny because we were just talking about that too in an upcoming episode of Money on the Table. But it actually becomes less of a, it doesn't even seem like a goal, like hitting your number. It's obviously a goal, but it seems more of a target than a goal, because the path of actually getting there, like so much of it is not really in your control. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, oh, well, it happened today. Like, are you smarter because of it? Like, you didn't do anything. The market just went bananas. You know what I mean? That doesn't make you a savvier, investor per se. So for us, it's like, so the goal is more so like earning $1 million, but the money that we have in our portfolio, or that in the way that grows, doesn't really feel like money that we earned. Those are goals that we sort of set, but our total net worth at a certain point becomes what we would just consider a target. So all that to say, at this point, it's really just pad the fund. We just put it away.
Yeah,
we carve out a little bit, splurge.
Yeah. But we just look at it as giving ourselves a raise on our annual expenses later. Like,
all right, I might even say carve out a little bit, carve out a little further of a cash runway, right? So that we could have that much more confidence to try new ideas within our business.
Mm-hmm. Cheating, that was not an option.
Well, I didn't put it into the business. I held 100,000, 60,000, whatever in cash, and then the rest put it away. I've, as someone that used to obsess over real estate and obsess over having a big portfolio and having all these different accounts, like I have just come to appreciate simplicity so much more these days, because that's just not where I want to put my energy, which I feel is the antithesis of someone who's supposed to be like in the personal finance and money space. But I'm fine with that. If I am not considered that, that's fine. But simplicity is really, really important for me, at least. I feel she feels the same way. And yeah, put it away. Don't think about it and watch it grow.
Forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it for a little while.
Forget it for a little while.
I'm not going to forget. I'm coming for mine.
For that Tesla. Coming for that Tesla.
I'm not going to forget. So you guys have our contact information. Reach out anytime. Like, we're here for you.
I'll be in Chicago soon.
I know. I want some Garrett.
I love Chicago. But yeah, we gotta. Who knows? But yeah, I feel like if we are able to do an in-person sort of book tour or any other business reason, I feel like we should definitely stop by Chicago for sure. We've got a considerable group of folks that, at least on paper, are in the Chicago area. So do a little meetup or something like that.
Yeah, no, this was awesome. So we just want to thank you guys. And yeah, we'll definitely be in touch with more questions and
you guys are fine, man.
Yeah.
Like you guys, you get it.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. I really appreciate meeting with you guys in person.
Right. Person.
Right.
Brad, there were like 5 or 6 different things that I just wanted to quickly hit on before we wrap up this episode. Huge thanks to Julien and Kiersten for being willing to have this conversation with Martin and Ayesha, and just the way, I think honestly, Martin and Ayesha did a better job interviewing them than we have on the other times that we've had them on this show. And I think their advantage was they're living this. Along with nearly every family that is pursuing financial independence, you end up with a list of questions that you need some answers to. And it's really useful to be able to get them from someone that is really only a few years potentially ahead of you, as we're seeing in this case. And you saw where they went immediately. Like, what are the habits? Like, what are the habits that we can start implementing right now? I think this was massive because we had these things at the financial level, but also at the day-to-day.
Yeah, Jonathan, the day-to-day. And I think that really, when it cuts down to it, that's what this FI life is, right? It's truly a life. It's not some magical thing. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's about living a life just a little more optimized. And I think Kiersten said it perfectly, where she said the creativity involved in FIRE is fun sometimes, when you get to tell the story of the $40 TV, or, they gave other examples like buying these balloons for a birthday party. And like, you could see them just kind of maybe going back and forth. I'm like, oh, wasn't it cool when we did this neat thing and saved some money? Or like, it was just that optimized thing, but it's still living this wonderful life. And I think that's how I conceptualize FI in my own head. And with my wife, Laura, like, I think about little things she does. And Laura, frankly, is the much better FI person than me. I know I'm the person here who talks about it on the podcast, but like, she's the one with all the little tips. She's the one who, when she knows my daughter Molly has 5 birthday presents coming up, and that she saw this amazing board game on sale on Amazon or at Walmart, she'll buy 5 of them, even though it's could be a year from now. But if you can get them all for half off or 70% off, and you can buy them in one fell swoop, why wouldn't you do that and get a great present at the time? So it was funny when they were talking about birthday balloons, Jonathan, like that, it reminded me of my own life. And I think that's the fun part about this.
Yeah, and they went into some detail here on how they personally game it out. It's not going to look the same for all of us, but just giving you some ideas for how you can implement this sort of creativity, and by making very intentional decisions here, free up bandwidth for other, maybe more important decisions down the road. In their case, it was the capsule wardrobe. I thought it was fascinating, the dish sink. Let's just make this one decision that the dish sink is always clear, and then we don't need more dishes, right? Because the dish sink is always clear. The one that I know I'm guilty of is the coffee cups. We have 30. Why do you need 30 coffee cups? Well, because we never have enough. Why? Because the dish sink is always full, right? Solve that, and your favorite coffee cup is always there for you, and you don't need 30, and then you're double stacking them, hoping that when you open the cabinet door, it doesn't fall over and crack into the avocados. Guacamole, personal story, just happened recently. All right, anyways, return stuff. I don't return stuff. Like right now, I'm recognizing this. Like, I do not do a good job of return. I buy it. If it doesn't work, it ends up becoming clutter. That was like a little reminder to me, like, oh yeah, I could just return it. It wasn't, and Kiersten she's hardcore about it. If it didn't get used 5 days later, it's going back. That is that is taking up space in the house, and it represents my life energy. I'm not going to leave it there. I was like, yeah, I got to do a better job at that. Like, it either gets used or it goes back. There's nothing in between. My downside is because I don't shop in person anymore, returning often looks like sending stuff back online. And I bet you the online retailers know that and love that fact.
Yeah, it's a higher bar. There's no question. It's funny. This reminds me of that quote that we said probably 20 times in the first year or so of the podcast from Jocko Willink, which is discipline equals freedom. And I think so many of us hear the word discipline and we kind of recoil in horror from it. But it's the spirit of this quote is so important. Like, you set up a framework of a life by setting up these non-negotiable things. And then it allows you freedom to maybe spend time doing things that you'd rather be doing rather than last minute washing a sink full of 75 dishes, right? Like, if you have just the discipline, the framework is, hey, every time this is always empty. That's a non-negotiable rule, right? That's a bright line test. And I mean, for me, it's similar. Like, I have 2 coffee mugs that I drink out of because we wash our dishwasher runs essentially every other day. So I know that if I have these 2 cups on that third morning, they're coming out clean, right? I don't need a 4th, 5th, 20th, 100th mug, right? And you can do that. You can keep extrapolating that. And it's kind of fun actually to see. And again, no aspect of this is deprivation. This isn't, hey, let's drink out of a dirty coffee mug, or, see what kind of mold and science experiment we can grow. Like, I mean, that's not what we're talking about at all. It's about how do you create a life where you use everything that you have? I mean, wouldn't that be a fun experiment in and of itself?
I had this kind of like horror memory flash through my mind of like college, and I had this one fraternity brother that had like this dip cup that he called his experiment, and it was never allowed to be emptied. I'm sorry to plant that visual image, but there was some interesting spores growing in that thing. I'll tell you what. We just avoided entering the room.
Yeah, that sounds great.
You literally mentioned the mold, so I was just like, you know what? That took me back for a second.
Yeah, I set you up.
I tried to avoid it and just move on. I was like, no, I can't. This needs to be shared. Wait, can we just talk about moving on? Investment for a second here. I mean, Julien just absolutely nailed this, but invest in yourself. You are an investment, and when that frugal nature of yours kicks over, be very careful that you're not robbing yourself of the ultimate investment, which is yourself. And it can look different, right? It could be, he said, taking a course, buying a book, getting a kettlebell, but do it, invest in yourself. And I think that this is something that we as a community, which is probably disproportionately people that tend to find frugality slightly easier than maybe a mainstream culture, need to pay attention to that. And there's a line here, and it's gray, and it's absolutely not binary. It's a spectrum. Are you getting to the point where you're not wanting to spend on consumer stuff means that you also do not invest in yourself? Just pay attention to that and see how that's manifesting in your own life, and what is that potentially robbing you of and robbing your future of?
Yeah, it's funny, Jonathan. This is exactly where I was going to go next. This to me was actually the biggest takeaway of the whole episode. It's like Julien said, I've never regretted an investment in myself. And they said, as you're describing, the spirit of frugality can get in the way. And it definitely can, right? I can see that in my own past. Thankfully, it's not my present now because I do invest in myself. But unquestionably, in my past, that spirit of frugality got in the way. It just did. And think about how many opportunities you're potentially foregoing, right? What if you had learned that new skill? If you had gone out of your way and met that person or networked in a very positive way, or found somebody you could partner with on a new company or an investment opportunity, right? Or even down to, like he said, buying a kettlebell, right? Buying some weights and getting healthier. Maybe going out and getting, like I'm doing now. I told you recently, Jonathan, I just got a vitamin D blood test that I paid for out of my own pocket, because in the research that I've done, this is becoming really, really important to overall metabolic health. And I had no sense of where I was on my vitamin D level. It's such a tiny, tiny little thing. But the Brad of 10 years ago would have had that negative spirit of frugality get in the way of spending $30 to realize, oh, wow, my vitamin D level is extraordinarily low. I need to do something. And again, it's such a silly, almost silly example, but it's not silly because it's that spirit. And you almost invariably are going to find places in your life where you're holding yourself back from something that could really help you.
Yeah, and I hope to our audience, your big action point this week is not that you need to go get your vitamin D test, but that you do need to make sure that you don't rob yourself of the chance to invest in yourself. And I think that that's hopefully just something that I think Julien did a great job reminding us all of. The last piece here, and this is something that's been a pain point for all of us for the last year, I would say, is community. And one of their big realizations, and Martin and Ayesha's realization was, when you go to one of these local meetups, although that you might, and I think Julien said this, you have this caricature of how like every person that's pursuing FI is a blogger or podcaster. And you go there and you realize that's not true. In fact, we're probably the most boring out of all of them. The other people are out there just doing this and flexing their freedom in a million different ways. And you're going to meet geologists that are doing this and people that are just traveling the world they don't have time to do a blog. They don't have time to do a podcast. They're actually flexing their FI muscles, and you're going to find them at local meetups. Like Brad and I are bloggers and podcasters like 2 days a week. The rest of the week, we're living our life. And it is absolutely awesome because FI and being on the path to FI affords you that ability. But it's really cool. It's really cool if you can build a community of people that get that lifestyle, that when you make an unreasonable request of your employer or of your situation to, execute or leave for a period of time, you want a 3-month, you want a red X month, whatever, you're not beholden to the 2 corporate weeks that you get after all the seniority is taken it, but just when do we want to do it? And we're going to build our lives around this, or you're working towards that. It's really cool when you have other people that get it and can build their life around their priorities as opposed to the corporate shareholders' needs.
Yeah, Jonathan, I think the local groups, obviously, like you said, this past year has been tough, but these local groups, this is the heartbeat of the FI community. This is what it's all about. It has nothing to do with podcasters and bloggers. I mean, if podcasters and bloggers make up 1% of your local group, that's probably a lot. So just realize these are groups of regular people just like you who are getting together and trying to live better lives. And the groups are what you make of them, right? I mean, that's what's neat is you can find those people. Like Ayesha was saying, she wants a community of people who can support each other, who are looking to retire maybe in the next 5 or 10 years, and who can purchase something together and share it, share it 5 or 6 ways. I've talked about that so many times. Like the item you buy and use once a year or once every other year, it's sitting idle 99.9% of the time. Like, why can't you share that with 5 or 10 other people, right? And share the cost, and you'll still be able to use it every single time you need it. Like, it just would be neat to have a group of people to rely on, to be there to support you in something that, sadly, as we've said so many times, this is countercultural. It really shouldn't be, right? I think this path to FI in this life should be the standard narrative, but sadly it isn't yet. So finding these people, it just makes it so much easier. And yeah, I mean, Jonathan, obviously at some point soon, we're going to be coming out of this malaise. So just a reminder to everybody out there, ChooseFI.com/local. That'll take you to our list of 300 plus local groups throughout the world. And there are also cohort groups where, there are military members and FI meal planning and all sorts of stuff. So, I mean, these groups are really, really helpful, both online and in the real world. So yeah, ChooseFI.com/local.
All right, guys. I mean, there is a thread that ties all these together, right? It's a mindset, it's margin, it's having bandwidth in your life. And it's not picking between community and investing in yourself. Investing in your community is investing in yourself. The skills, the networking, the job opportunities, the opportunities that are available in your area that you might not have been aware of, that they go hand in hand. Again, just want to say thank you one more time to Rich and Regular for coming on the show and being so generous with their time. I'd love for you to go give them some feedback on this episode, to check out their website where they're putting all this amazing content together, richandregular.com. And you can also at that website find their web series called Money on the Table. You can also search for that on YouTube. Episode 1, Why is Money Taboo? Give it a shot. Give them your feedback and let them know that you appreciated them weighing in with really so much openness for this community and generosity of spirit. All right, my friends, the fire is spreading. We'll see you next time as we continue to go down the road less traveled.